The data display buttons display optional data, constraints, waypoints, VOR, non-directional beacons, and airports. When the airport button is selected on, the airport symbols are displayed as a magenta color. The airport symbol is displayed white when the runway is not specified. When the non-directional beacon button is selected on, the NDB symbol is displayed a magenta color. When the NDB symbol is part of the flight plan, the symbol is a green color. The NDB symbol is a white color if the to waypoint and blue when tuned by the FMGC, automatically or manually. When the VOR button is selected on, the VOR symbols are displayed a magenta color. Whenever the VOR symbols are part of the flight plan, the symbol is a green color. The VOR symbols are a white color if the to waypoint and blue when tuned by the FMGC, automatically or manually. When the WPT button is selected on, waypoints not in the flight plan are displayed a magenta color. The to waypoint displays white. All other flight plan waypoints display green. When the CSTR button is selected on, the altitude, speed, or time constraints are displayed a magenta color. The FD button when pushed cycles the flight director command bars on or off. The FD button illuminates green when selected on. FD2, annunciation indicates that the captain's FD is selected off and the flight officer's flight director is selected on. 2 FD2, annunciation indicates that both flight directors are selected on, but one FD has failed or one FMGC data is not valid. 1 FD2, annunciation indicates that both flight directors are on. The speed or Mach number button when pushed, changes the value in the speed or Mach number window from airspeed to Mach, and vice versa. The speed or Mach number window displays the selected speed or Mach number. When the speed selector is pushed, FMGS managed speed engages, the managed speed light illuminates, and dashes appear in the speed or Mach number window. The speed or Mach number selector when rotated, changes the value displayed in the speed or Mach number window. When pulled, the selected speed displayed in the speed or Mach number window engages. If the selector is pulled when the speed or Mach number window contains dashes, the window displays the current airspeed. When pushed, FMGS managed speed engages, the managed speed light illuminates, and dashes appear in the speed or Mach number window. The heading or track window displays selected heading or track, displays dashes when a managed lateral mode is engaged. The lateral mode light illuminates to indicate managed lateral mode is either armed or engaged. The heading or track selector when rotated, changes the value displayed in the heading or track window. When pushed, navigation arms or engages and the lateral mode light illuminates. When pulled, the selected heading or track displayed in the heading or track window engages. If a heading is selected prior to pulling the selector, the airplane turns in the shortest direction to the selected heading. If a heading is selected after pulling the selector, the airplane turns to the new heading in the direction the selector is turned. If the selector is pulled during a turn, the airplane rolls out on the existing heading. The heading vertical speed track flight path angle button changes between heading or vertical speed and track or flight path angle display modes. When heading vertical speed mode is selected, heading appears above the heading or track window and vertical speed appears above the vertical speed flight path angle window. Flight director command bars can be displayed on the primary flight display. When track flight path angle mode is selected, track appears above the heading or track window and flight path angle appears above the vertical speed or flight path angle window. Flight path vector and director is displayed on the primary flight display. The ALT window displays altitude selected with the altitude selector. The window never displays dashes, even when climb or descent is engaged. The metric altitude button displays the flight control unit altitude in meters on bottom of lower ECAM. The altitude selector changes the altitude displayed in the altitude window. The inner selector rotates to change altitude value. The outer selector provides selection of 100 or 1000 foot increments. When the altitude selector is pulled, op climb or op descent mode engages. When pushed, climb or descent mode engages, and the level change light illuminates. The vertical speed or flight path angle window displays the selected vertical speed or flight path angle. It normally displays dashes when not in vertical speed or flight path angle mode. Vertical speed or flight path angle selector when rotated, changes the vertical speed or flight path angle displayed in the vertical speed or flight path angle window. The vertical speed range is from plus or minus 6,000 feet per minute. The flight path angle range is from plus or minus 9.9 degrees. When the selector is pulled, vertical speed or flight path angle engages. When pushed, the airplane levels off. When engaging a vertical speed or flight path angle, the selector must be pulled within approximately 45 seconds, or the selection is lost and dashes are redisplayed. The localizer button arms, engages, or disengages the localizer mode. It illuminates the managed lateral light. Dashes appear in the heading or track window when localizer engages. It takes a minimum of 3 seconds after arming for the localizer to arm. The expedite button engages the expedite mode to reach the altitude set in the altitude window with maximum vertical gradient. Automatically engages managed speed. Airspeed is green dot during climb, and 0.80 Mach or 340 knots indicated airspeed during descent. To disengage expedite, select new vertical mode or selected speed. Expedite climb is not recommended above flight level 25,000 feet because the Mach number corresponding to green dot is too low. The approach button arms, engages, or disengages the following modes. Localizer and glide slope modes. If an ILS approach has been selected via the flight plan or radio NAV page or RMP, takes a minimum of 3 seconds after arming for the localizer and glide slope to engage in the capture mode. Approach navigation, final, and final approach modes. If a non-precision approach has been selected from the MCDU database, do not arm the ILS approach mode above 8,000 feet above ground level. Radio altimeter signals are not available above this altitude, and with the approach button armed, the autopilot disengages at glide slope capture and the flight directors revert to heading vertical speed. If the localizer or approach button is selected on and the ILS button is not selected, and an ILS approach is entered in the flight plan or the radio NAV page, ILS flashes amber on the PFD. If the ILS and approach buttons are selected on when a non-ILS approach is selected in the flight plan, vertical deviation flashes amber on the PFD. If a VOR or NDB approach has been selected in the database, the localizer and approach buttons will not arm for localizer or glide slope capture, even if the ILS frequency is manually tuned. An ILS approach must be selected via the flight plan page. The autopilot buttons engage or disengage selected autopilot. Autopilot guidance modes are selected on the FCU and MCDU. Engagement is confirmed by the flight mode enunciation on the PFD. The autopilots utilize ailerons, rudder, spoilers, and elevators to achieve the desired flight profile. Rudder inputs, yaw damping, and rudder trim are computed by the FACS and are automatic when an autopilot is engaged. The autopilot also provides inputs to the nose wheel steering unit during the rollout mode on an auto-land approach. The Flight Management Guidance Computer, FMGC, contains a navigation database which provides nav-aid auto-tuning, position computation, navigational accuracy checks, and flight planning through the Multifunction Control Display Unit, MCDU. The MCDU contains a performance database that provides predictions of fuel, time, distance, speed, and altitude. Each FMGC is linked to its own on-site MCDU, RMP, and EFIS control panel. After entry of the flight plan and other required performance data into the MCDU, the FMGS generates the climb and descent profiles for departure and arrival, provides automatic airplane guidance, and computes current and predicted progress along the flight plan. The line select keys identified as 1 left to 6 left and 1 right to 6 right and provide access to data in the left and right data fields respectively. Keys enable data entered into the scratch pad to be line selected, moved, to the appropriate data entry field. If a caret appears next to the key, selecting the key accesses another MCDU page. If an asterisk appears next to the key, selecting the key activates a specific function. The scratch pad displays typed alphanumeric characters and FMGC generated messages, up to 22 characters. The two MCDU scratch pads operate independently for data entry. The vertical slow keys can be used to slow a page up and down if a page contains more data than fits on the screen as indicated by arrows in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. The vertical slow keys can also be used to change latitude and longitude as indicated by the vertical arrows next to the associated data field. FM1 or FM2 amber indicate a failure of that FMGC. IND amber indicates the FMGCs are operating in the independent mode. RDY green light indicates that the FMGC has passed its power on test. The additional page arrow indicates additional pages are available. Additional pages may be viewed by pressing the horizontal slow keys. The BRT dim selector controls intensity of MCDU display pages. A short press on the BRT key performs a power up of the MCDU. A long press of the dim key starts the MCDU power off. The SP key inserts a space in an alphanumeric sequence. Function keys. Init A page allows the flight plan to be initialized and the IRS to be aligned. Init B page allows the flight crew to initialize the zero fuel weight and zero fuel weight center of gravity and to do the fuel planning before engines are started. Fuel prediction page shows the fuel prediction for the flight and is also used for entering fuel data once the engines are started. Flight plan page A displays the time, speed, and altitude predictions at each waypoint of the active flight plan. Flight plan page B shows the wind forecast and estimated fuel on board for each waypoint of the flight plan. Both pages also display the distance bearing and track between these waypoints. DIR2 page allows the modification of the flight plan by creating a direct leg from the current aircraft position to the selected waypoints. ATC-COM refer to Future Air Navigation System course. Data calls a group of monitor pages such as Position Monitor IRS and GPS Monitor. It also calls a set of reference pages allowing the interrogation of the navigational database. Performance pages allow the crew to optimize the speed or Mach targets for each phase of flight. Progress page enable the crew to monitor the progress of the flight to cross-check or update the flight management position, to alter the crew's flight of the aircraft. Radio navigation displays the radio nav aids currently auto-tuned by the system. It also allows the pilot to select other nav aids. Secondary flight plan allows the creation, initialization, and modification of a secondary flight plan. Airport allows the crew on flight plan page A to switch between the destination airport, alternate airport, and origin airport. The fail amber annunciator illuminates when the MCDU has failed. The FM white annunciator illuminates when the FMGC is not the active system and it has been sent a message. Use the MCDU menu key to return to the FMGC page. Clear key. Clears messages and data from the scratch pad or an individual data field. If alphanumeric characters have been entered into the scratch pad, a single, short press of the key erases the last character entered. A longer press of the key erases the entire scratch pad entry. When the key is pushed and the scratch pad is empty, CLR appears in the scratch pad. If a line select key is then pressed, the adjacent data field is cleared, or will change to a defaulted or FMGC calculated value. If the data field to be cleared is a leg in the flight plan, the leg is deleted from the flight plan, and a discontinuity created, in most cases. Clear can be removed from the scratch pad by pushing the key a second time or by entering an alphanumeric character. The MCDU menu annunciator illuminates when a system linked to the MCDU requests the display. The system can be changed using the MCDU menu key. The alphanumeric keys enable entry of letters and numbers into the scratch pad. The positive and negative key alternates between a positive and negative figures. The slash key is used to separate pairs of entries in the same data field, example wind direction slash speed, 270/110. The trailing entry of a pair must be preceded by a slash if it is entered alone, except for frequencies and identifiers entered on the radio navigation page. Instinctive disconnect button. A way to turn the A/THR off is to press either one of the two A/THR instinctive disconnect push buttons installed on the thrust levers.